Stacey Summers, and this is my Portrait of the Dead essay. Hey Grandpa, it feels like eons since I've seen your face. I'm embarrassed to admit that at times I have to look at old pictures that Mom has given me in order to remember exactly what you look like. However, the one thing that I can never forget is your smile. You have that same thin-lipped smile in every tattered sepia-toned photo I have come across. I'm glad that I have your smile. It makes me feel like a little piece of you is still here. However, I wish I could have been granted just a little more time with you. It seems so unfair that you had to go so soon. This family has never been a stranger to loss, but losing you made the sky not quite as bright at night. Mom and I went hiking last week and we talked about you. I had no idea that you loved old cars so much or that you lived in your garage and visited your house just long enough to sleep. Mom told me he would come upstairs every now and then, but then he would disappear for another few hours or so. To be honest, I did not even know that you were a mechanic, but I guess it makes a lot of sense looking back now. You always did have a lot of old tools down in that garage, but those things aren't that important to 6-year-old little girls, I guess. I was much more interested in your candy stash than that you used to keep beside your favorite chair in the living room. I still find myself simultaneously a little melancholy and comforted whenever I see a box of Queen Anne's cherry cordials, even though I preferred the chocolates. You always had a sweet tooth. You would always ask, anyone want a Pepsi? You even had your own mini fridge just for Pepsi and beer. It was your own little private stash that you were never reluctant to share with anyone who was thirsty, including your Airedale Ivan, who used to knock over your beer to lap it up off the carpet. You would return to find the criminal evidence and try to act mad, saying, Ivan, what have you done? I would laugh really hard, and then you would smile and go get another one. Mom told me how much you loved horses, especially Tennessee Walkers. I can see that porcelain Tennessee Walker figurine displayed in the bay window of your living room. It looked so odd sitting among all of Grandma's expensive carousel music boxes, but I was so excited when you proudly displayed it there anyway. I was so excited to buy it for you for Christmas. I wish I had been able to go riding with you sometime. You would tell me, use your legs more, or relax the reins a bit. You always found so much peace just being out there in nature where nothing could bother you, not even your dysfunctional family. I guess now that I'm older, I realize how much you sacrifice for everyone in your life. I never realized how your caring demeanor would mean the world to me as an adult. You were a better father to me than your son ever was. Jimmy just never seemed to have any time for anyone. He was always gone or busy. You never gave up on him, but he had given up on you years ago. You were pretty effective at concealing the hurt in your eyes whenever he showed up to visit. You'd warmly ask, "Are you staying for dinner, Jimmy?" Then you would pretend not to feel upset when he would respond with, "Nah, where's Mom?" You would go back and sit on the couch and listen to him ask Grandma in the kitchen for some money. Then he would slip out of the house without even saying goodbye to you. I guess he never realized how hard you fought to make up for all of the things that he screwed up for the rest of us. He manipulated our entire family, his selfishness, his ego, his scarce existence. But you took the hardest hit. You were his father, and you always felt that you might be able to save him someday. There was one incident in particular that I'll never forget. I came over to visit you and Grandma for the weekend. It was my dad's scheduled weekend, although I never expected to actually see him. Grandma was in the kitchen making me a grilled cheese, and you were in your garage. I was shocked but excited to see my father was there for once. I ran to give him a hug, and he half-heartedly hugged me back. I asked if he wanted to watch DuckTales with me, and he said, "Not right now." Then Grandma told me to go watch TV, and she'd be in a few minutes later. I obeyed, but even at that age, I knew that I would be watching TV alone. I pretended to watch my cartoons while listening to Grandma criticize my dad's parenting techniques and beg him to spend half an hour with me. He followed up with some lame excuses he always had. I don't know why I cried. I was used to the same old song and dance, but I sobbed silently in the living room with tears cascading down my burning cheeks. I couldn't even make out the contrast between the Disney characters on the screen in front of me. They were just a monotonous blur of bright colors. The bright colors made me mad. Cartoons are stupid and for babies anyway. You must have slipped into the house because you came to sit down next to me. You put your big arm around me and hugged me so hard. I cried and cried into your diesel-stained flannel while you were wondering where you ever went so wrong with him. Then you asked me if I wanted a Pepsi before we built a log cabin out of some old Lincoln logs. You were more fun than my dad anyway, even if you did always smell like old cars. I hope I'm not disappointing you by being a Coke fan these days. I wish I could find all the pieces to the puzzle of your life. You did such a good job at holding it together, even when you felt your world was falling apart. You were such a strong person. On our hike, Mom told me he was always sort of nervous all the time. I thought this was strange because I'd never remembered you in that way. She said, he and your grandma used to fight all the time. Most of the time it was about your dad. She would say horrible things to him that made him sad all the time. She said that you used to always say, Virginia is ruining that boy. She lets him have anything he wants without working for it. I wish I could apologize for the way everyone took advantage of your kind heart and accepting nature. You were always the last to fight and the first to forgive, even when that person didn't deserve it. I wish you would have not let Grandma emotionally push you around, especially since you were right most of the time. Mom told me that the fighting got so bad that eventually he and your grandma took separate bedrooms. She wouldn't even eat in the same room as Harry. It made my heart hurt to think of how lonely you were in your own house. Thankfully, Mom then said, I used to go in there and eat with him. We would talk about all kinds of things, politics and old cars. He taught me a lot of what I know today about cars. Mom told me about how kind you were to her and how you used to always call her and make sure we had everything we needed after my parents split up. She said you used to stock the fridge full of food even when she insisted that we were fine. You would tell her, I already bought it, so I don't know what you expect me to do with all this. I can't possibly eat it all. You always knew how to help others without making them feel indebted. You were an angel even when you were still alive. It was nice to talk to you again. I've missed you more than I realized. I haven't thought much about these memories from the past in quite a while. I've been so busy focusing on my schooling and my career path that I hadn't thought about the credit I owe you. I truly don't believe I could be as happy as I am today without your love and your belief in me. Thank you for understanding that I just needed someone to be there for me, someone to make me a grilled cheese, and someone with whom to watch Fantasia. I know you're thinking, I just did what anyone would do, but that's not true. Unfortunately, most people in this world don't have your heart. You always knew what people needed, even when they didn't know it themselves. You're so patient and understanding, with a joke up your sleeve if things got too heavy. Really? Sometimes I think about how life would be different if you were still alive. Sometimes I paint a picture of how it would be. I would pretend to enjoy drinking Pabst Blue Ribbon with you, all while thinking you have horrible taste in beer. Mom said she used to drink it with you in your garage, which means that our family must be full of people with horrible taste in beer. I guess you and I had to be different in some ways. I wonder if you would teach me about cars and make fun of me for driving a Toyota, and then I would justify it by saying it's good on gas and dependable. You would chuckle with your mouth closed and change the subject. I wonder if we would have went to the Cleveland Auto Show this year. You would have rattled off facts about different engines while I looked forward to buying some fudge at the food exhibits. We would ride horses together. I still have your old English show saddle in my attic, although I would warn you that Mom taught me how to ride Western too, since she prefers it instead. We would all go riding together, and you would jokingly ask her, do you have your training wheels on? And she would just laugh and shake her head. I've tried to paint a portrait of your life, but I think I have failed. You were never a portrait that could be painted. Okay, I apologize. My computer is insane. Okay, let's start over. I tried to paint a portrait of your life, but I think I have failed. You were never a portrait that could be painted. Rather, you were a landscape. You were as sturdy and dependable as an old oak tree, and with a heart as sweet as autumn apples falling down. Your compassion for others is as timeless as the Appalachian Mountains themselves. I cannot paint a well-defined portrait of you because I do not have access to all the details that made you who you were. Instead, all I have are memories of how you made me feel loved when I needed it the most. You are like a nature hike. I can never explain precisely what it is about walking through the woods that makes me feel so peaceful. The tranquility isn't due to one specific bird, tree, or sound. It is an amalgam of all these things working as one. There wasn't just one quality about you that made you who you are. It was many. Thinking of you makes me feel happy about a time in my life when so many things were going wrong. You were an oasis. I may not have very many specific memories of you that can paint an exact portrait of who you were, but I know enough to know that a soul like yours could never be truly defined anyway. It can only be felt in the heart.